up next Monday, and hopefully everything will go very well. We have been doing virtual learning with kindergarten classrooms, and I was over there this week to kind of check in on how that's going. And we've had good participation, not 100%, but good participation. And but they're getting antsy to get their kids back in front of them. So, and then last weekend, this past weekend, leading up to last weekend, we had quite a few students and staff members at intermediate school that had tested positive. And when we started doing the quarantines there, it became overwhelming. There's 671 students registered for 5th and 6th grade at intermediate school. Of those 671, we have about 600 of them that are actually on campus, have about 70 or so that are in virtual school. So out of that 600 that should be on campus, we got to the point where we were going to be above 180 students that were going to be positive or quarantined. So that was more than a fourth, not quite a third of our student population in that building. And amongst staff, we have 45 staff members total in that building, certified and non-certified. And we had 9 staff members that were going to be either positive or quarantined. So that was a fifth of our staff there. We are short on subs, and we could kind of deal with the 25% of our kids because we were trying to do remote learning with those who are at home and quarantined. So we probably could have handled that, but the staff was going to put us in a bind. At one point, we had over 50 staff members across the district who were quarantined or positive last week. That's an average day for absences on a non-COVID year, around 50. And so in a COVID year, we've had days above 100 absences this year. So substitutes were going to be an issue, and with that many in that one building, it was specific to that building. There were high numbers there, not nearly as high in any other buildings. I was afraid we had spread in the student population there. So that's the reason we closed there. We consulted with the Department of Education and the Department of Health on both of those closures. And actually this past Tuesday, we had an official consult with the upper management of the Department of Health about our school district, what's going on. And we're reassured that we had made the right decisions in both instances. And they asked questions, made suggestions, but most of the suggestions that they made we were already doing. So it was very good. It was actually a very productive call, Zoom meeting. And so they agreed with both of those closures. Intermediate school, that 2-week closure would take us up to the Friday before Thanksgiving week. And then we have virtual days, Monday and Tuesday. So they will come back the Monday after Thanksgiving.
I will say Logan's at intermediate, and the transition was very smooth. And she was quarantined before the big closure, but it went very smooth.
I was over there. We handed out devices Monday and Tuesday for any that didn't have devices. And so I was over there Tuesdays to watch part of that process, and it was going very smoothly. And the teachers were starting to connect with kids and try to get some instruction done virtually. So, that's we had prepared for all of that. Last spring was kind of a trial run for all of that, and I think we're better prepared now. But it's still not an ideal situation. We want our kids on campus.
Do you see a surge after Halloween? I'm just wondering if the same thing will happen after Thanksgiving.
The 2 weeks after Halloween were what led up into this week. So, yes, we had a surge. Was it directly related to Halloween? It's hard to say. I felt like we did have a surge in our district after Labor Day weekend. About a week to a week and a half after that, our numbers climbed. And that possibly could be part of it, but I think we're having a surge across Northwest Arkansas right now. I don't know, it's our community, our school districts, and our region. And honestly, it's the state. We don't have up-to-date numbers from ACHI, which is they show numbers by school district and by community, but they only update every 2 weeks. So next Monday we'll have more current numbers for our community and our school district, and I anticipate that those will jump considerably, along with all the rest of them.
I'll also add that I did get a call from one of Logan's teachers just checking in on her. I don't know if that's part of the process or not, but it was very nice. Meant a lot to Logan to hear that.
Yeah,
They were
very good.
thinking of her.
Very good. Any other questions about any of that? Okay, that's going to conclude my report. That was all I had for you all this evening.
Just a quick comment. I think you guys are doing an outstanding job, and thank you for all your work going on. Has to be real tough on everybody.
Thank you.
Ms. Carter.
I'll take my mask off since I'm 12 feet away. So I'm just going to give a quick update on two different things. So the first one is Virtual Academy. And so that's been a new endeavor, and you know that. We've tried to keep everyone informed. So Virtual Academy currently is sitting at around 415 students. So if you'll remember, when we originally started in August, it was hitting that 600 number and even surpassed it for a couple of days before some people changed their mind. And except kindergarten, because it's own building, we're sitting with about 18 students in kindergarten. All the other buildings are sitting in the 60s or the low 70s. So it's 67, 73, 73. High school has around 122. And I always say around because every single day our numbers change. Somebody decides to come back or something like that across the building. So it's very fluid. And so, but we're holding steady. Over the last week and a half or so, we want to make sure that we're offering the best possible education to all of our kids, whether they're brick and mortar on site or if they're virtual. So we know there have been a lot of hiccups and challenges with virtual. So we've had some face-to-face meetings with our staff, K-6, and then we did a 7-8 group, and then we did 9-12, so that we could ask some questions about what are we doing well, what's going well, let's think about the positives, then what is not, what do we really need to work on, and then when we need to work on it, what are some suggestions. And so Ms. Schlake and Ms. King hosted those, scheduled them. Mr. Wiggins and I participated in most all of those so that we could hear firsthand. So we do have some things to correct and remedy, definitely for next year. There are a few pieces that we're looking at. Could we make some additions or tweaks or changes to help the experience be better come January? And so we've just finished those meetings. And so from all of that anecdotal, Ms. King has had meticulous notes from those conversations. And so there were some great things. We talk about parent communication with the virtual. That is one of the things that was echoed K-12. The teachers are communicating a lot more via email or in person, on the phone, text messages with some kids, especially the older they get, through Remind. So that was one of the positives. A lot of them said, I've talked more to children and their parents this year than I have in 5 years combined. So that's a positive thing. So the parent communication, some things, and so that was kind of one of the big ones. One of the things not going so well, it was the hiccups with our platforms. We have a Pearson platform, K6, and we're using the Summit platform 712. And so that's a big one. It has calmed down. People have learned the tricks of the trade to get around some of those issues. And so, will that be something that changes in January? That would still be out for discussion at this point, but we do hear the teachers. We've definitely heard from parents and students. So that is up for discussion as we begin to look forward to January and then on into next year. Suggestions for improvement went back to our platforms. They wanted to know, are there other platforms to use? Could we use our own curriculum through the virtual academy instead of using something different? Use what our brick and mortar buildings are doing. And so again, that came K-12. Nobody ever landed on one specific. So it's a little bit of everywhere. One of the other big things that they talked about is our accountability of our students and our parents of the virtual students. And so we have been very fluid and flexible in what is required of our virtual kids. So that is something the teachers are asking for us to really shore up and streamline. So is that something that we could definitely look forward to changing in January? Definitely. So we told each group that after we had everybody's input from K-12, that we would get back together as teams and talk through some of those. And so that's kind of where we are in our virtual world, so to say. So just kind of wanted to give you a heads up on some of that and an update. Any questions on that before I move on?
Did you say, and I may have missed it, was this in person with teachers only? What about parents? Have we thought about doing a in-person questionnaire?
Yeah. Yes, I'm glad you asked. So Ms. Schlake and Ms. King are actually currently, they've elicited questions from all of the virtual teachers, and they have a parent survey and a student survey ready to be pushed out, and they were looking at pushing that out sometime next week. And so we will get some feedback from all of those stakeholders as well.
But that won't be in person.
That won't be in person. That'll be through a survey with COVID trying to bring that many people on site. Yes. Anything else? Okay, so my second piece to talk about is just a little bit, we called it the State of the Union earlier, but the state of the district. Mr. Wiggins just updated you. We have Northside and Intermediate closed, so that has put everyone a little bit high alert on, are we serving our kids? Are we communicating with our kids? Getting all of them involved since they are now remote. So through the last several weeks, we have had face-to-face meetings with some of our teachers. Mr. Wiggins sent out an invitation to, I'm not really sure the number, 30-ish teachers, maybe, staff members across all grade spans. And we had a good turnout for that, and that one was one of our face-to-face. Again, we asked some of those same questions. What are we doing well? What's not going so well? And then what are suggestions for improvement? We had tons of positive pieces from those meetings, from our ed tech tools. At the beginning, they were a little apprehensive of how many ed tech tools we were giving them, but now they love them. And so they're very appreciative of the ed tech pieces, like Screencastify, Edulastic, some of those pieces that we purchased. Absolutely love those, and they say they really could not do, whether they're virtual or the remote, they could not do that without those pieces. So very appreciative. Some of the things not going well, it leads back into two different areas. Our virtual kids coming back on campus, that has been, as we were over 600 and now we're down, to around the 415-ish mark. But those kids have been coming back on campus. We want them on campus. We don't want to lose them. If that experience isn't going well, then we definitely want to provide the experience that will, help them succeed. So we have had a lot return to the campus sites. That has been some hiccups that Ms. Schlake, Ms. King, and then the building principals have to work through about making sure we have text materials, making sure we have classes that those children could go in. And so they have been working through that. So everybody's welcoming them. It's just been one of those hurdles that we didn't necessarily anticipate 200 going back into the building. So that's been one of the pieces that teachers talked through and said, that's difficult to just all of a sudden get a new student. And they said, it's not any different than if we've received somebody from Missouri or Kansas or somewhere. It's just, it causes that little bit of angst in the midst of everything else we're doing. So, suggestions. Mr. Wiggins asked several of them, how could we make that better? And it really just came back to the transition piece, knowing what standards they've been taught, if they were like a virtual learner, what standards have they been taught versus what have we been teaching in brick and mortar, and knowing that ahead of time before that new student walks in that classroom. So again, that goes back to that communication between those leaders, and they've been working on that. And so hopefully in the last few days or week or so, that's become a little bit better of a process. Then one of our other pieces that's been the hiccup, and right now it's concerning because we've had Northside and Intermediate, is the remote learner. So we have remote learners across all grade levels. We know Northside and Intermediate automatically, but we have remote learners in every building. Sometimes that is due to quarantine. Sometimes that is due to family or self-choice that they want to quarantine. We definitely know we've had some athletes choose to self-quarantine so that they can continue to play their sports and be involved in that aspect of their life. And when we talked with teachers, K-12, the remote learner is what hurts their heart, because some kids are, great. Like you talked about your daughter, she's signing in and jumping right on the lessons. Well, we have some that don't have parent support. They struggle with internet. We've provided, hotspots and different things to help with that piece. But a lot of our students don't have that parent support, or they don't have it until 5:30 or 6 at night when the teacher is not necessarily available. And so that causes some issues. And so we heard that over and over. I hear that every time I visit a building. Our remote learners, our remote learners. So we hear them. We don't have successful ideas. We have been open to them. I know I'm on state and regional Zooms, so is Mr. Wiggins, many of our other leaders. It's everywhere, so that helps me know that it's not just us, but no one really has the fix for how to engage those remote learners. So that is something that has been a struggle, and we are continuously working on pulling those kids in and getting them engaged. So that was another one. As far as teaching and learning in general, across the district, we pushed out an ELA, English Language Arts survey to staff, and we pushed out a math survey across the district and received tons of feedback. You'll remember from previous reports, we have new math curriculum in K-5. We also have new ELA curriculum in K-5 and some parts of 6-8 and 9-12. So we're looking all across the board. So we figured those surveys would be a nice way to gather some input. Grateful for curriculum. I mean, this teachers are saying grateful to have it. Grateful that we have math now and we have ELA. Grateful that you purchased this. Lots of positives. The downside to it is it's a lot. There is a lot to the ELA curriculum that we have. And then math is the same way. The K-5 math is new across the nation on this. We're in the beta pilot, so it's not the official final product yet. And so we find minimal things like typos that need to be fixed. But then we also find those pieces within the content where our page numbers don't match with what's online or different things like that. And so we're working through that. So with those two surveys from teachers across the 2 days that we're offering at the Thanksgiving week, they are so thankful for. And so I was in Intermediate and Northside today, and in both locations, they're just looking so forward to those 2 days where they can really dive into their new curriculum, and that's going to give them some really focused time to get in there and see what that is. High school, was also at high school today, talking to coaches and different staff members. Again, the same echo of we are so thankful that we can look at our curriculum, look at what's coming instead of a couple of days ahead, being able to look at weeks ahead and getting prepared and planned for that. So I'm very thankful that we landed on allowing our students to be virtual remote learners on those 2 days, and allowing our teachers some professional time to really get into the curriculum and focus on teaching and learning so that they can have a little more confidence in what they're delivering to our kids. So, and that will be the end, except for if you have questions.
Now, the new curriculum really is what we've been teaching. Yes. It's just support materials.
Yes. Yes. And there's a lot. One of our coaches in one of the lower grades printed off one PDF that's available in the ELA curriculum, and it was like 800 pages. And so it's because it's in the lower grades, and there's so many reading pieces, you know, paragraphs to stories and moving them up. There's a lot in there. Well, that's a lot for us to go through, let alone each individual teacher. And so we're working on compiling those and sorting them out for teachers so they don't have to do all the hunting and digging. They know it's there, and we know it's there. It's just finding it within those massive documents. So you can scroll through 800 pages, but you can also print it, and then you can sort and know what you need to do. So, yes.
Are teachers, do they still have their lunch or a break hour, or are their kids in their classroom at lunch? I mean,
That was something that was considered at different times and in different school districts. All of our teachers have duty-free lunch, and all of them still have their prep periods. Now, we rearranged some things at different buildings to spread lunches out. So we have more lunch periods at each building to spread kids out a little bit, and we probably have kids eating lunch far earlier than they should be and far later than they should be in some buildings. But that was our solution to being able to work around it.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
This was probably not the best year to start two brand new curriculums in our two major subject areas. But when we started planning for that a year ago, none of the complications existed at that time. And part of our issues with both of those curriculums is they both came in very late. So our teachers didn't have time over the summer to prepare. And they came in very late because nothing arrives on time in the last 6 months. And so we had those ordered well in advance. And we just didn't get them in time for our people to have enough time to really prepare with that new curriculum. So we're paddling upstream on that right now. So those 2 days of Thanksgiving are going to be very beneficial to them.
and I have heard from a couple of friends that teach, it says easier now. I mean, just because they're, get just more into it. Right. But it is going easier now. It's still, it's hard, but the layers of complexity that we've got, but I think the routine and everything is.
And I think the structure is good.
Okay. I guess we don't have a report from Mr. Patrick.
Mr. Patrick is out of state tonight.
Out of state. Be hard to report, huh?
It would.
So, Miss Terry's standing up there. I guess we'll move to action items for the October financial.
We have made it 1/3 of the way through our school year already. To me, that just I can't, it boggles the mind that we're already a third of the way through. Our auditors, our state auditors, started contacting me on Monday, so the audit has officially started. I'm sending them preliminary documents. Miss Bambi has sent them a few. My auditor contact has told me not to expect the audit to be over until sometime at the end of February. And it is all remote. They are not coming on site. I think we'll be doing a lot of things over Zoom. A lot of our documents are already electronic, so getting the documents to them should not be much of a problem. But they are working our audit in and out of U of A audit. So they might work on ours a couple of weeks, and then they're going to have to switch and audit something at the U of A. And that's been our issue the last few years, why the audits start so late and last so long, is they're working us in with U of A. It is an auditor that we have had, it's been about 3 years. Craig Collins is the lead auditor on this audit. Jared Pierman has been our main auditor for the last 3 years, but they worked together 2 years on this audit together. So they're very familiar with our structure and things. So I will keep you posted on how that's going. So a third of the way through our school year, and we have collected about 28% of our projected local revenue. I have seen a peak of, you can see we got, $1.8 million this month in revenue. November, we've gotten over $5 million. So that is our huge dump that we get from everybody paying their property taxes in October. And we'll probably have another hefty one in December, and then they just go down. And then you see it raise again in April and May when people assess their taxes. A lot of people assess and just go ahead and pay their taxes at that time. So I was happy to see that come in. It's very comparable with what we received last year in November, so that makes me happy. Comparing July to October from last year to this year, we're within $24,000 of the same amount collected. So we're not ahead, we're not behind, we're just neck and neck. We received quite a bit less in October than we did last year in October, but we have received more in the months previous, so it has evened itself out. Our teacher salary fund is sitting at 27%, which makes sense because they're a month behind, so there's only 3 months of salary instead of 4 in there, and it just runs 1 month behind, so that makes sense. 77% of our total expenditures this month were spent on salaries and benefits, and that's down. Number one, we had our first interest payment on our debt. We have a second one that's due next month, so you'll see that on the financials next month. And all of the furniture that we ordered in March came in September, and we paid for it in October. And it was a lot of, we should have paid for it over the summer, but as Jody stated, we just can't get anything in on time. So that's caused a little bit of a hiccup. We had budgeted for it, but we didn't plan on doing it real big like that. I really don't have anything else to report unless you all have any questions. Okay.
Move that we accept the financials.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we need to approve a resolution to contract with C3 Advisors.
Yes, sir. This is a board resolution like we do for employees who have connections to a business that we do business with. And this one specifically, C3, is a business that Chuck Hyde has. And Brian, his wife, works for us at Southside. And Chuck does some professional development, specifically with around leadership with our administrative team. And so I would recommend that we approve this resolution to do business with.
Motion to approve resolution to contract with C3 Advisors.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That already brings us to executive session
Yes, sir.
for the purpose of resignations. Where are we doing? In here?
We probably ought to go down to the Razorback room again, the one we were
I
in
can't
2 months
remember
ago.
where we were last time.
Oh.
I'll follow you.
Okay.
Heck, it's just so good. This may be record time. Okay, call ourselves back into open session. And item D, we need to accept a resignation.
We have one resignation. Lori Brewer, speech therapist at intermediate school, has turned in a resignation before the end of this semester. Lori's been a very good employee, and we will miss her. We are desperately short on speech therapists already, so this hurts. So all of those outside providers that you all have approved in the last few months, that's where those speech therapists come into play. So I recommend we accept this resignation.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No hires. Correct?
No hires.
Sick leave?
We have 3 emergency sick leave requests. Maria Barrientos at Southside, Michael Hodge in Transportation, and Shauna Asensio Porter. All 3 of these have turned in paperwork requesting emergency sick leave to Terry. All 3 of them qualify by our policy. I would recommend that we approve the emergency sick leaves.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we have a whole slew of transfers.
We have 6 transfers in. I believe all 6 are from Gentry. Madison Lansbury, 13. Jacob Lansbury, 11. Abigail Gross, 18. Robert Gross, 18. Riley Gross, 18. Hazel Ellison, 3. The first 5 all recently moved into the Gentry district but have attended here for a long time and will request to stay. And Hazel is attending pre-K here, or would like to, because Gentry has no pre-K and we actually have open slots this year. So we're accepting, we would love to have her. I recommend that we approve these transfers in.
Motion to approve the students into Silent Spring.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we have some going out to Gentry.
So we have, we're getting 6 from Gentry, and we have 5 requesting to go to Gentry. And all, do what? That's right, a net gain of 1. So these 5 are in the opposite situation. They have recently purchased property or moved into the Silent Spring School District, and they have previously attended the Gentry School District. I believe one of them just is going because he lives here, but he prefers a smaller school, or mom requests a smaller school. But I would request that we approve these 5 transfers out.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Other business?
I have some information just to give to you, provide to you about classified transfers, hires, and resignations. Classified transfers. Marcia DePriest has been our nurse at Northside Elementary, and we have a request to transfer her to registered nurse high acuity, and that is a mobile nurse for us. It's the position that Cindy McLean had before she passed away this fall. That goes building to building, depending on need. And so the request is for Marcia to move to that. That will open up the north side nursing position. She will work there until we find someone to fill that spot. We actually thought we had filled it, but at the last second, that did not work out. So Marcia will keep on covering Northside until we hire somebody in that position. Classified resignations. Robert Holman has resigned from a food service position. He will continue in a transportation position. He was doing both. Mike Pruitt from transportation, bus driver, has resigned. Classified hires. We have hired Kristen McGree, Northside Pre-K Paraprofessional. Ashley Pound, Northside Cafeteria Monitor. That's for just a short period of time each day. Rodney Duell, Transportation, bus driver. Carrie Lindsay, Transportation as a bus aide. And Amanda Perkins in middle school as a special ed para. That is it for classified transfers, resignations, and hires. I would like to point out that there is Arkansas School Board Association annual conference in December. Maybe has more information about that if any of you are interested in attending. It will be by Zoom. And then there is also, as part of that, Arkansas School Board Association Delegate Assembly. The Delegate Assembly is the body that makes policies for the Arkansas School Board Association. If any of you would like to be a delegate and participate in that process, Bambi has information on that as well.
So face to face or is it?
I believe that is a Zoom. Also, Bambi has board hours that she is going to pass out to you after the board meeting. All of you have a wealth of hours, more than you need for this year, and some to carry over for next year. So congratulations on that. That is all I have, sir.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Audrey always makes that motion. You did. But no one moved because we have to sign a lot of papers. Stay at your designated distance stations.
Well, I thought these guys were so cool when they went to Face ID.